Live preparing. Right, and I think that is now. How do we go live? Are we live? Yes, we are live. So I'm now going to start it. Hi there, everybody. I hope that you can see me and everything is going well with you guys at the moment. I have on my show today two amazing people. I have Karen Sutton-Johal and Pete Avery. I have them on my show, which is absolutely fantastic. Hi to both of you.
Hello, Time Lord.
Hi there, yeah, hi there, Time Lord. I'm going to just set this Zoom to record on this computer as well in case it fails online. Okay, so thank you very much for joining me. Now, I have Karen. If you haven't read her book, please do so. Her book is amazing. It's called The 4 Money Mindsets. Have you read it, Pete?
No, I've got it on order.
Good. I think I need to start getting commission actually, because I've started selling it. I sold another 2 or 3 last week as well. Okay. And Pete, we've got you as well, which is brilliant. Pete is now running an agency called We Are Stride, a phenomenal agency. He's got his badge on there, which is brilliant. And also he was, what were you at the Times, Guardian, Vanity Fair? What were you? What was your job title? Because I keep getting it wrong.
Well, I was the art director. A lot of businesses call them creative director. I was the head of the creative department.
Weren't you senior art director?
They don't use that title. You have art directors, art editors, designers, producers, all that, but it's art director.
Okay, that's fine then. That's fine. Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to be talking a lot. We're going to be talking about things like art, photography, and things like that. And we're going to be talking about having the right money mindset as well. Okay, so let's start with Karen, if we may. Karen, basically, can we turn to you and ask you, what is the mindsets of money? How does it influence you, and why did you write this book?
Well, thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to talk about this to people, because it's actually so critical. I didn't set out at all to discover the money mindsets, but all my life I've been obsessed with what makes some people really successful with money and what makes some people really not successful with money. And this, when it was probably born out of my upbringing. My dad came from one of the richest families in Ireland. And my mum came from such a poor background in County Limerick. And I saw how the different families reacted with money and how, financial misfortune befalls people all of the time. It would befall both families. And the rich family always came up smelling of roses. And the poor family would often have money come into them, and somehow they would always end up broke again. So this really, I was one of these kids who used to just sit and watch and see what happened.
So this happened in your childhood, was it?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And then as I got older, I became a debt advisor. Right. And I went out, because one of the things that did happen when I was a kid was my dad's business collapsed, and it made me mindful of debt and people managing money. But what I discovered when I was out there working as a debt advisor was I would go in and I would help people. And there was an example of a chap I was helping in Derby, after the financial crash. And this old man and his wife, and I went and I helped them. And the next thing, 6 months later, or when they got back into debt.
You mentioned that in your book,
Yeah,
don't you?
and it's in the book, the whole story of it. But that's when the penny dropped for me. I thought, oh my goodness, this is a mindset. And we went out to do some research to help people. But we discovered there isn't just an in-debt mindset and a not in-debt money mindset. There are actually 4 money mindsets.
Yeah.
So there is a mindset indeed to be in debt. There's a mindset to break even. There's a mindset to be comfortable, and there's a mindset to be rich. And whichever one of those you have will dictate how financially successful you are.
Right. Okay. So it determines how successful you are, you were saying. What do you mean by success then?
I mean financially successful, which is, I suppose, it is different from success. You know, you can be successful in all sorts of things, but to be financially successful is really to have control over your money, to be able to afford the things you want in life and to live the life you want. And even with a rich money mindset, to be able to create what you want and give as much as you want to out in the world.
Right. Okay. So it's that's an interesting point, actually, I think.
Yeah.
But it's not only about taking; it's about giving as well. Giving to others. You're saying, is that right? Giving back to others, giving to society, charity giving, and so on. Because you do mention one person in your book who you said go and give to some charity. Now, he may have had a wealthy mindset, I think, and you said go and try giving out to charity, and he gave 50 quid or 5 quid or something.
That's right. That's right.
Take us through that mindset.
Yeah. The interesting thing about that chap, Barwin, is he didn't have a wealthy mindset. He had a comfortable mindset.
Right. Okay. What's the difference?
And the difference between the comfortable mindset, and you see this it's embedded in the financial behaviors. A person who has a comfortable mindset, as money comes into them, the first thing they will do is save a big portion and keep it. And then they will live on the rest. And they will give a little bit out of the rest. And it's often driven by a feeling of lack.
Right. Okay.
Whereas people with a rich money mindset, as soon as money comes into them, they will think about adding value and leveraging and creating more. And they will often give more. So very often people mistake wealth and rich people and the rich money mindset or other money mindsets for people who do or don't give a lot.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So they, I think you put in words something that really dramatically changed me. And I read your book only a couple of weeks or so ago. And I went to bed one night and I just read this whole thing about leveraging others, leveraging money, leveraging time, leveraging resources as well. And I woke up the next day and I basically gave up Facebook. I deleted my account. I'm not saying this is right for everybody, but I'd been thinking for quite some time, is this a good use of my time? For me, it wasn't. I was getting drawn into political discussions or, you know, and then somebody would comment on my comment or I'd comment on theirs. And consciously, I was thinking, has anybody commented? And I had to comment back and so on. And so I find that my attitude to money permeates through the whole of my life.
Right.
And it influences me. Do you want to explain a bit about that?
That's so right, you know. Oh, thank you so much for that question, Owen. It's so spot on. And leveraging is everything, because that is the ability to make much more out of what you already have. It's not about, oh, you know, I'll be rich because someday I'll get over there and what I want is over there. It's about using what you have today. Yeah. Use what you have, do what you can. And that's absolutely it with leveraging. Yeah.
So it actually transformed my life, to be honest with you. It transformed it being something where I started looking at my branding. I started looking, well, I just had my branding done, but I started looking at my website. So I appointed a web designer as well. Oh, my pictures disappeared there. So I appointed a web designer as well to leverage somebody else.
Yes.
I've appointed somebody, and we're going to start soon on LinkedIn, you know, and Sales Navigator and so on. So I've appointed somebody to do that. And I've started looking at it. And, you know, life is a lot easier when you change your mindset about money.
Yeah.
Your other attitude to other things and so on also transforms as well. And it changes the way you're thinking about things quite dramatically.
That's right. That's
What,
right.
what have you seen? What have you seen? Well, first of all, how long have you been doing debt counselling, credit counselling? What sort of changes have you seen? Is it easy for people to change their mindset over money?
It's very interesting. Joe and I have been building businesses for the last 15 or 16 years. And we've learned an awful lot about creating money from building your own business, because you can only really build a business with a rich money mindset.
Yeah.
I did the debt counselling for only about a year, and I saw that actually the pattern of just helping people out of debt and not working on their mindset was actually getting people back into debt. It was like this awful merry-go-round. So I stopped doing that, and we set up our own coaching and training business to teach people. Initially, it was to get out of debt. And our byline was get out of and stay out of debt. But more and more we saw small business people coming, and they needed to develop the rich money mindset. And it's actually very, very deep, the sort of change that needs to happen to shift your money mindset, because there's the technical knowledge, which is all about how do you build assets? Do you know what I mean? How do you manage money? How do you
about that in the book as well?
Yeah, and all of those skills. But in the middle of this, there are the sort of financial behaviors you have, and things about how much power do you give to money? What is your money block? What do you use a financial strategy that's designed from first principles? You know, these various sort of deeper things. And then deeper down on one, we've discovered that a lot of people's money mindset issues come from things that have happened in childhood. So since then, I've trained as a trauma therapist, not because I'm wanting to work as a therapist, but because good, intelligent people make some shocking financial decisions over and over again. And it's because of things that have happened when they're younger. And once we can track that back and work with people, they can start to see the patterns. I bet you anyone listening to this now, if they think about it, they can track back patterns in their financial behavior.
Yeah, that's right. And very interesting. What comes across in the book about trauma is a story about your parents.
Yes.
Who lost the business and they lost lots of money and so on. And then they worked in jobs they hated for the rest of their lives. And they carried on working. And I can't remember how much retirement they had, but I don't think they had much of a retirement. And they could actually retired. And the very interesting about them is that they seem to have a make-do mindset, yet they had money to enable them to retire. Yeah. But their mindset was based upon the fear and the trauma of the loss of money.
That's right.
So just because you have lots of money doesn't mean to say you have a wealthy mindset. Is that right?
It's so true. And it's so true. And just personally, it broke my heart seeing it, because my dad, yes, they lost the business when I was about 9 or 10, maybe even actually younger than that. And they went and they worked jobs they hated after it. And hard work actually killed my dad. Right. He worked in a job he hated. But the fact of it was he had millions of pounds in shares. My mother had an enormous pension. They actually had millions of pounds, and he was too frightened to let go. And he died still being afraid to replace the kitchen in the house.
Oh, wow.
It's just heartbreaking to see somebody live out of fear and the real terror and the trauma of what had happened before.
So they'd actually experienced what we'd call today PTSD.
That's exactly
in their life over their money.
That's right.
And that formulated their opinion. And it was very interesting as well. So I'm getting personal here, but it's in the, and what strikes me is the book is about money, you say, but it actually isn't.
That's right.
It's about your mental health approach to life and your approach to money. If, like you said earlier, if money controls you, then that controls the whole of your business life, the whole of your life. Yeah. And so having the right mindset of this wealthy mindset is liberating and freeing.
It's so critical, Robin, because, you know, we have a thing as well. We say, you know, money makes you, it doesn't change you. It just makes you more of what you are.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and like a good person who gives lots, if they have more money, they will just give more. Somebody who's in fear, like my dad was, he just held on to it more.
Yeah. So it's easy to change your mindset, have you found, people?
Do you know, it's actually, if I'm honest, it's very hard. It's very hard. And the reason it's very hard is exactly for what you've just said, is because money is actually a proxy indicator of what's going on deep down. That's all it is. So if you've got a shortage of money in your life, or there's something going wrong, it's because you've got some pattern that's going on over and over again. That's the mindset. It keeps things like Groundhog Day happening over and over again. And until you can actually track that back, become aware of the pattern, and then actually develop your range of responses to things happening and get a capacity for dealing with more and different things, you can't actually behave differently. And if you keep being driven to behave the same way, the fact is you can only ever get the same results. And this is why we have people who've come up, clients who they've gone bust multiple times.
Yeah.
They, you know what I mean? The same thing seems to happen. People have gotten into debt more than once. People have ended up, they're just hoarding more and more money, but they don't know what to do with it. And it's because it's this awful mindset is at play. It is absolutely sortable, but it takes enormous commitment and guts, I think.
Yeah, it's a pattern of behavior, isn't it? You need to
very
break
deep.
that pattern of behavior. And I know we've got so much more to talk about, Karen. I know you've got views on education and what's taught in schools as well. I hope that you'll come back again if we haven't got time today.
Yeah,
but thinking on, I mean, Pete, you have worked with some people with vast wealth, vast amounts of money and so on. I'm not going to ask you to name names at the moment, but we're going to go into some of your war stories in your previous life and job and so on. But did you come across people like that with these different mindsets in your jobs in the media?
Well, the thing that just came out of that, which was great, because I could go, oh, well, I could make excuses for not reading or getting into the mindset thing. But as you've just said, the fact that it's a proxy for actually what we're like and what comes from childhood and all this, that, and the other. So, I am going to read the book, and I really am fascinated by this, and it's more. But for me, I'll tell you the most interesting thing. I mean, power, wealth, whatever, underneath it, everybody's a person. And the fact is, I actually like people, because I've always said to people starting out in the realms of media, look, if you don't like people, then don't become a portrait photographer. Do still life. But actually the fact, and I won't name names, yes, I've worked with some really, really well-known people. And what you tend to find is the fact that they've got people around them, and their job really is to be protective. And it's the fact, don't talk to them about this. You've only got 10 minutes. Don't look them in the eye and all this. And the fact is, if you're engaging with people, and it's not a blanket, everybody is different. Because always after I've worked with different well-known people, they'll go, what were they like? And I was going, well, to me, they were like this. But what you've got to remember is I spent half a day with them. Now, they could have been having a good day, a bad day.
Yes.
We all meet, and we project onto people. I mean, as I say, I've gone into situations expecting this person to be standoffish or whatever. But again, I think it's how we deal with people. I think it's that whole thing, no matter how, a celebrity, whatever, it's the fact, not many people I've worked with have come from a background of privilege. Not many of them have been born into it. Some may want to forget those struggles, and it's just about connecting with people.
It's interesting you say, Pete, about if you don't like people don't do portrait photography and so on, who remembers Heidi High? Do you remember the series Heidi High? And the children's entertainer on Heidi High. He
did, yeah,
children. He was always half cut all the time.
Yeah.
He hated children, but he was the children's entertainer, and he had to do it. I mean, that immediately sprang to my mind.
Yeah, because again, the thing is that a great portrait photographer, you know, you engage with people, you get the best out of them. I mean, my thing on shoots is the fact that I want people to be relaxed, and a great way to get people relaxed is to actually don't surprise them. The fact is, if in advance I can say to them, look, we're going to use this location and this is why. We're going to use this photographer. This is examples of their work. I mean, I was lucky enough, especially like when I was art directing Vanity Fair, that the fact is it opens loads of doors, or The Guardian. People know what to expect, and actually, on the whole, they're quite happy to engage with us and to give us time. But it's a weird, you know, sometimes, as I say, the shoots that I thought were going to be the most difficult turn out to be a real pleasure. I mentioned to you, all I will say is she's a very well-known ex-Spice Girl, let's just say that. And talking to her people beforehand, it was just this. And I had to do it on a Sunday. And I've given up my Sunday to spend with this person. And there was a lot of everybody in the crew. There was a bit of fear. Her people turned up first, and again, perpetrated this whole thing of fear. When she turned up, my thing was I engaged with her. And by the end of we had 2 hours with her. She ended up telling her people, can you cancel the next slot? I want to carry on. It was, you just don't know. People are people. And we also, I've met people whose public perception is not what they are like.
I also think as well, if you're in the public eye, it must be an awful job to be a news presenter, whether entertainer, whatever, because whenever the cameras go zing, you've suddenly got to perform, and you could have tripped over the cat, had a argument with your wife, the kids.
We all have good days. We
perform.
And again, for me, it's just I work with people. Those are photographers, stylists, makeup, wardrobe, whatever it is. And it's the fact I always say it's working with people. This is why the agency is We Are Stride. It's basically me, but it's me with other people. And it's the fact that I work collaboratively, but I work collaboratively with whoever we're shooting. Because if I don't have their confidence and they don't want to work with us, it fails. So
that's an interesting question for Karen, actually. Sorry, we'll come back to something in a minute, Pete. But how do you gain people's confidence? Because they've got to tell you their money, and people feel they're going to be judged or whatever. How do you gain the confidence of people?
And I mean, what's interesting about this is we also have had lots of very high profile clients. And that's why we often say to people, never ever make assumptions about people and their money. You don't ever know what goes on with people ever. But the really important thing about, I suppose, if people have money issues of any type, they need to talk to somebody. But as a culture and a society, we carry huge shame, and we carry all sorts of baggage around money. So people really, really have issues with that. The first thing we do when people come up here to us in the Peak District, or we do online work now and everything, is for people to feel safe. They have to feel absolutely safe. And a bit of it is like Joe Singh, the other half of the Penny Drops, and we work together, and he's equally trained in all of this trauma background and all sorts of things as well. And he's only ever made money out of running businesses. But so that we say to people, right, we go at your pace. We cook up a nice meal for them. We take them on a little walk if they get a bit stressed. And then we've got to go deep down into what's actually causing the pattern. We also have to look at the numbers, because always remember, you can talk about any form of success, but financial success is very, very robust, because numbers never lie.
Yeah.
If the numbers in your bank account are in red, you've got an in-debt money mindset, and there isn't a way of getting out of that. And
Yeah.
people
So-
very, very often really struggle with looking at that.
It's very interesting that the two of you, completely different worlds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dealing with the money and debt and all the rest of it, counselling and so on. And Pete dealing with superstars, stars and all the rest of it. And you are sometimes Karen.
Yeah.
But it's about treating people as people, isn't it? So Pete, coming back to what you were saying, what Karen's saying there, you've got somebody coming in who's a well-known superstar comedian, entertainer, musician, whatever, ex-Spice Girl, and they've had a bad time. How are you approaching that with people? How are you approaching them?
Do you know what? The word safe space is so right.
Yeah.
Because again, whether we're taking people to a location, going to, I mean, sometimes, you know, I've shot a lot of people in their own homes, and that's, you know, the fact they let us into their safe space, or we create a safe space. I don't know. It's, the fact is, I just treat people as people. I mean, one of the advantages I've probably got is a lot of celebrities I don't even know that they are. So I wouldn't say to them, and you are, but because I always do due diligence. But I tend not to be this sort of like kowtowing, doff my hat. Do you know what? I would treat someone that empties my bins with the same level of trust and respect, because they deserve it. Just because you're on TV or whatever you do is the fact, you know, we're all people. It's, I suppose it's just that thing. Do you know what? Underlying, and I think this cuts through what anybody who deals with people is being empathetic, is actually thinking about them. This isn't my thing always. I mean, I work a lot with businesses now, and it's the fact of getting them to be successful. But it's that thing of being empathetic. It's not about me. I know, you know, for these publications, we had to get results. But actually, I used to make everyone at ease, because as anyone who's ever worked with me will know, my catchphrase is the fact of the, well, worst case scenario is. And it's that thing that, because the photographer, none of the crew are just there as operators. And you get the best out of people if they are relaxed to do what they do best. And it's the fact, if it's working, you know, I've done a lot of fashion stuff. And again, it's the fact that respecting these people never, I mean, I've been on shoots where people get bullied, models get bullied, and that's horrendous to me. My thing is just, it's being empathetic, it's listening, and also just get, I mean, I'm not a reader of body language, but you can tell when people aren't relaxed. It's the fact of, without being sycophantic, but you get the best out of people on shoots when they are relaxed and they become really engaged with it.
And they have confidence in you. It's about confidences, both of you. You know, you're meeting people about money, maybe local town, maybe they're known, Karen, and the person coming to you has got to trust you. Pete, you've got to have these people in, they've got to trust you, and so on. But let's move on slightly to, I'm just going to pin this. So hopefully you could see this guy, famous guy here. What was this all about? Photographed by the great, the wonderful John Hooper.
John Hooper, great. And again, this is where I'm really pleased to say, with a lot of people that I've worked with over the years have become really good friends, because again, it's that trust and respect. We were doing a series of, again, this was Vanity Fair, portraiture. I'm trying to think how I could say this politely. Let's just say that it was people who, you know, people's careers are in waves. Let's just say that some of the people we were shooting weren't actually at the peak. And what's been brilliant is the fact that Richard E. Grant in recent years, but again, I suppose when I'm talking about peaks and troughs, is the fact that, well, actually the peaks are just when they're in the public eye. Actually reflect on
the latest TV show.
Yeah, it doesn't reflect on
theatre doing some amazing stuff, but
this is it. So often the fact that I'm saying about people's waves is about people's perceptions. And the fact is, Richard E. Grant, yes, he's well known for a couple of films, but in between, I mean, he hasn't stopped being an amazing actor. Yeah. But actually, one of the things with this was the fact that for Richard, he was time poor. And it was really important to actually shoot it somewhere near to where he was. And do you know what? This is in a garden centre just around the corner from his house.
Garden centre, wow.
And you wouldn't know. But this is the thing, is the fact, the psychology of photography and the fact the way that you can crop stuff, you can tell different stories. If we had moved 3 foot to the side, you've got
an outhouse near where he lived or something like that. Okay, so what about this one then? Photographed by Patrick Fraser. Tell us.
Well, again, it was about getting her relaxed, and the fact that what can I say? Because the fact is, it's, you know, Patrick Fraser's just a fantastic photographer. So my thing is the fact that I always commission the people that I think are most appropriate for a shot. Now, I talk about the fact that some photographers need hours to set up to get the lighting perfect, this, that, and the other. Then there's other photographers who I know can shoot just 3 frames and they've got it, and they could just be in and out in 10 minutes. So for me, it's choosing who I believe is right. And again, someone like Patrick could turn around and go, I don't feel comfortable doing this. It's going, great. I know that I'll commission you again. And again, but she's got to be very, very trusting, because again, the fact is, I don't want to put people in vulnerable situations, whether it's a state of undress or whatever it is. So yeah, for me, it's the fact of getting the sitter. Well, it's also getting them to understand why we believe a certain shot should be the way it is. It's not about, again, it's not me pushing something onto someone. So, but again, if you work with the likes of the photographers that I have, you know.
And then this one. You told us briefly about this. I love this story, but I don't know.
Right, okay. So Matthew, Full Metal Jacket. And I talked through with Richard beforehand, and it was just this idea of, we should get him in a jungle. And the fact is that he was coming to West London, and it's sort of like, you know what, West London's not really got many jungles in it, has it? So again, my thing is, I never ask of people stuff that I wouldn't do myself. So I thought, actually, I'm going to try and find out whether you can actually hire plants that you would use you'd have in a jungle. So I started ringing around, and I found I'm getting a reputation for garden centres, but I found this garden centre in West London, and I rang them up, and they said, we can supply tropical plants, all sorts, and you won't believe it, but we actually supplied all the plants for the original film of Full Metal Jacket. Wow. But if you were to pull back from that shot, you would see that he's crouched in amongst a load of pot plants. Brilliant. But again, he's got to go with it. And it's the fact that I always say, you know, if humour and banter are appropriate. So my thing was, I talked him through it. I go, you're going to think I'm nuts, and I am. But what we want to do is this. And when we crop it, because again, the fact that what we can do is actually show people on a monitor, okay, this is what it looks like. And it's always making sure that people realise, we want to get the best out of you. I haven't got an axe to grind. I'm not trying to portray you. I want to portray people naturally, not in the way that, you know, often society projects. I could talk to you about certain celebrities who their personas in public are not what they're like.
Well, that's a fascinating point, actually, because coming back to what you do, Karen, as well, is that people's perception of how money makes them think people perceive them. And with Pete, it's about, you know, people perceive their fame. Did either of you ever watch Tantrums and Tiaras on Elton John, the program he made?
No.
Have you seen Rocket Man, the movie? It is one of the best movies ever. Okay. I mean, he's a hero to me. But he had these people around him protecting him and so on. And whatever he said went, drugs, alcohol, you know, whatever he wanted. And with all of these stars who get addicted to drugs and so on, somebody is supplying them within their entourage. They don't go down to the local pub or onto the street corner and buy the drugs themselves. You know, somebody is doing it for them. And he could buy anything he wanted. But if you want to know a mindset, which is he was doing these most amazing shows, but he was one of the most insecure, frightened individuals you could probably ever.
There's a word which probably Karen would come across, is the fact of remembering that people are vulnerable.
Yeah.
Especially if I'm putting people into a situation where actually they're not the one in control. If they've got people around them, they're in control. We're being let through. And again, my thing is the fact of getting people relaxed, because it's the fact I won't put you in. Karen put it beautifully. It's that safe space. Doing a shoot with me is you come into the safe space. I won't use the word, but is the fact, you know, I don't want to make you feel vulnerable. I know you've got people around you, you know, maybe for protective in a broader sense, but Karen's use, the whole thing about a safe space is so true.
It is. And, you know, particularly when you see people who have issues there, they've got a business and they cannot grow this business. And it has to do with trauma very often. And I mean, if somebody is using loads of alcohol or drinking, or they're addicted to gambling, or they're spending hugely in ways they shouldn't, it's about having compassion for people.
Yeah.
You know, and when I see people like that, I do think with some of the stuff I've gone through in my childhood, there, but for the grace of God, go I.
Yes.
And it is about having compassion for people. And I think when people come and work with us as well, it's about, like, when I was working to build our businesses, I had to do an awful lot of work on myself to overcome my own comfortable money mindset, because it meant I was starving the business. I was too frightened to leverage and make the investments I needed to. And it wasn't until I did that for myself that we became really much more successful. And I think that when you're working with somebody who, it's not only we're all human, we are exactly all human, we're all the same. My struggles are anyone else's struggles. And guys, we're all connected.
Yes, very much so, very much so. Well, I find it fascinating that before today, I never, ever thought that we would be bringing together somebody about money and money mindsets and wealth and materialism, and somebody who's worked with Vanity Fair and Guardian, Times, Top Gear magazine, early days, and so on. And there being such a connection between the two of you of what you do, and it all comes down to the way we treat people, the way we respect one another, which is absolutely fantastic. So we've got to stop there. I hope you'll both come back on my show.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Because we've got so much to talk about. And this show started with showing people how to take photos of sunflower seeds, and it's now rapidly come on to this, which hopefully people will find engaging. But thank you very much. I don't know whether you can both do this. Live long and prosper. Live long and prosper, guys. I'm going to play the outro now.
Keep well, everybody.
Yeah. But thank you very much for watching, and we'll keep on chatting in just a minute when the outro goes. But for now, everyone who's watching, see you soon. Goodbye there. I don't think the outro is going to. I'm just going to end it now. Cheers.
We could sing them. We could sing the outro.
Yeah. Okay, that is brilliant. Thank you very much.
You're so welcome.